got to the car and I felt guilty, so I came back. I got to the car and I felt guilty, so I came back. Went to the bathroom. Downstairs. I think we're gonna start this. What was it? Oh, pecan. What street did you live on? You lived on Bridge? What street did you live on? Garden.
Greetings and welcome. Bonjour, Anin. Delighted to welcome all of you here to this presentation about Rooster Town. So first of all, if you didn't see it, there are printed materials in the lobby area where you came in. There's printed materials with the outline of the self-guided walk of Rooster Town. Secondly, there are printed materials about the mural that's on the Harrow face of the building here, which is another great project and a collaborative effort. And there's materials about the healing gardens and the plants and things that are out there. So welcome, you're welcome to look, ask questions, participate, take stuff and leave because you're not happy with this, whatever. But more important, is that there's bannock and tea and coffee and water available also out in the lobby area. So with that, I will tell you who I am. My name is Teresa Moisey. For 23 years, I served in ministry with this congregation, and over those 23 years, we had many explorations and curiosities and conversations and opportunities to pursue what we believe is at the heart of our nation in this generation, and that is truth and reconciliation. And so as part of that, our reconciliation team discerned, after having Evelyn Peters, who wrote the book on Rooster Town, here in about 2015 or 16, I believe, to speak to us as she was working on that book. Followed within a few days, presentation by Anne Lindsay, who is working on a project that was called The Missing Children, and it was about the unmarked graves around the Brandon Indian Residential School and its territories. And then we had a display, a large photo display that we had for 2 or 3 days of the Assiniboine, the Brandon Residential School. So that sparked a lot of interest in the neighborhood, in the schools, in the community, and within the folks of this community. And so we've been pursuing opportunities to learn more about our history. This building sits at the corner of what was once Rooster Town. Over the years, as the city began to push out, folks began to get pushed further and further south and a little bit further west as well. And so the only existing houses that remain are a few on Lorette, of the houses that used to be part of the Rooster Town community, and one down on Cambridge that was not a Métis family, but was a very interesting place. It was a riding stables. And so the people that would go out for a ride would go down and have a drink in the bar later, and the guys that looked after the horses were coming from Rooster Town, and sometimes they bunked over and sometimes they went back. So it's an interesting place too, and it's one of the landmarks on our walk. So we've been working on this for a while. It's a delight to be able to have an official launch for it. It is available on the church website. And on the church website, there are also some audio clips, which kind of add a little bit more interest to the whole enterprise. So as we were working on this project, we had a group of folks together. We were delighted that Darrell and his father, Frank Sais, and Frank was his family was the last ones to be evicted from Rooster Town. He was about 18 at the time, I believe. And their family were the last ones that were moved off in order to make room for things like the Pan Am Pool and the library, well, not the library now, but the high school and the parks and so on. You'll hear their story in just a few moments. But we were able, during a slight let-up in COVID in about 2020, to get together with them as a group of 5 and to hear that story, and found it very compelling, and decided that we wanted to create this self-guided walking tour of Rooster Town. And then we got lucky because somebody who knew nothing about the rest of us but was a neighbor to one of our folks in their condo building said, "Oh, Rooster Town, I'm interested in that. My family has some connections there, and I'm an archaeologist, no, a genealogist." So Jackie Corrigan wrote the tour, and I'm just going to let her speak a moment about that.
Thank you, Teresa. Yes, when Evelyn Peters wrote the book, a friend said to me, "There's a Hogue in that book, must be related." So, maiden name is Hogue, obviously. I got the book, I read the book, found a whole pile of family connections there, and wrote on my blog 3 different stories about Rooster Town based on the book, and what other information I could research. Virginia Platt, by coincidence, found out about my Rooster Town knowledge and said, "Well, we're thinking of doing a tour. Could you come to a meeting?" "Oh, okay, well, I'll come to a meeting." And this is the result. We now have a self-guided tour that you can use on your phone. You can use the brochure. We are just so thrilled to see so many people interested in the truth. Thank you.
Yes, so we acknowledge that here we are in the heart of the Red River Métis land, not far from the birthplace and the burial place of Louis Riel. And we are here on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional lands of the Cree, the Oji-Cree, the Dakota, the Ojibwe, the Anishinaabe. And so we acknowledge the history that is shared and unshared, and the stories that are yet to be told. We acknowledge them with respect, and we strive to learn to live more respectfully with one another here and throughout our lands. So, as Murray Sinclair said, before there can be reconciliation, we need truth. And truth involves telling stories. So, Darrell Sais is going to come forward and tell some stories. And I think his dad, Frank, is, as usual, going to come up, and he always tells Darrell, "I'm not going to say anything." Darrell says this, he'll tell you. And then Frank usually is able to contribute quite a bit, so we look forward to hearing from both of them.
People are watching me, huh?
We're the side. Okay.
There, can everyone hear me? Okay, thanks. So just before I begin, I just want to explain this picture. So what happened is when they did the Bill and Helen Norrie Library, they did consult with me, my dad, my uncle Philip, and my daughter at the last meeting, and I'll explain what happened. But in the end, when they did open up the library, the one person there, the manager in the blue in the far right, he was the manager of the libraries, and he opened up the library for our family to come there and tour it with all the different panels. So it was very exciting. Most of those are Sais's descendants, but there is a Haltzucker. Hal Chucker, one of their descendants there too. There were two that weren't Métis, two families that weren't Métis that lived in the community too. And that was one of them. And so we actually picked her up. So what I did is I rented a bus, because I work for Winnipeg Transit, drove the bus and picked up all my family members that needed a ride and brought them there. It was amazing. And I know the guy who does the digital signs, he can program them. And he actually programmed the sign that said Rooster Town Shuttle. So very nice to do. So we really enjoyed it. So, I forget what his name is. I wish I should have remembered it. He was very helpful in this, and it was very amazing. We had the whole library to ourselves. He opened it up just for us. Okay? Okay, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. So this is about Rooster Town, better known as Pecan Town. My dad likes that word better. And it was between 1901 and 1960. The book says 61, but my dad's family was gone by 1960. So my name is Darrell Sais. Okay? Yeah. I was born and raised in Winnipeg. I was raised in the north end of the Winnipeg. Very proud I came from the north end. And I'm a proud member of Peguis First Nation on my mother's side, and I'm a proud River Métis on my father's side. Very proud. I was a bus operator, an instructor for Winnipeg Transit for 33 years. I retired October 3rd, 2023. And after 33 years, I was retired for 5 months, and I got a call back to see if I wanted to come back and help out. Because I hope everybody here knows who takes the bus, it's all going to change June 29. Okay, so they asked me to come, so we have to hire a lot of drivers. You know, anybody who needs a job, we're hiring 6 a week, 6 a week. And it's well paid. And I can tell you, I just retired. I know I went back working, but the pension is very good. I'm glad I stayed there. So I drove bus for 15 years, 18 years, became an instructor. I was an instructor for 15 years. I loved the job. I loved driving bus. And then I wanted to become an instructor because, to be honest, there was no people in management who were Indigenous. And how can I complain if I don't apply? So I applied. Was fortunate to get in there, and it's been an amazing career. I have no regrets at all. I just loved it. I still do. Also a member of the Norman Chief Memorial Square Dancers. I've been doing that. I didn't actually start dancing until I was 45 years old. They were short a dancer in Black River First Nation. They asked me to dance. I said, no, I'm not dancing. They convinced me, and I've been dancing since. And I've been very lucky because I've been able to dance with my 2 daughters who are also members of the Norman Chief Memorial Dancers. I've been very lucky. And this is my father, Frank, who was raised in Rooster Town until he was about 18 years old. Okay? I got a lot of my knowledge from my father, and I can tell you he talks non-stop about Rooster Town. He's so proud that he was born and raised there. So, and then, well, I just said there, so he shares very many stories with me because he worked at Royal Dairies, and when he moved to the North End, he still went and worked there. He was a milkman, and then I ended up being his helper. So he talked all about Rooster Town on the way there, and he talked all about Rooster Town on the way back home. So I got all the stories. And they're very good stories. Oh, see, he's got something to say.
Could you imagine me coming from Rooster Town, uneducated, and being your milkman? That's what I used to be, a milkman. I worked there for almost like 15 years at Royal Dairies.
Royal Dairies was on Cambridge.
And a lot of good people, and I met some people who, you know what I mean. But I had a good life.
Okay, so moving on now.
Three beautiful children.
Yeah. Okay, I'm moving on, okay? Okay, so I got some pictures here. Elise and Charles Sais. That is my grandma and grandpa. That's my dad's parents there. And then the other one is all his brothers and sisters. Is my Uncle Bert, my dad, my Auntie Ruth, my Uncle Philip, my Uncle Willie, Auntie Mildred, my Auntie Charlene, my Auntie Phyllis, and my Auntie Mary. So my dad was the oldest boy, but 2 girls were older than him. The youngest was my Auntie Charlene. She doesn't remember too much of Rooster Town, but it's interesting because when they take them out for breakfast, they like talking, because my dad has dementia. So this is just great for him to talk about this because it helps him a lot. So I do appreciate this. And my Auntie Charlene, she'd say, I don't remember too much of it. Then it finally dawned on her. I think we were talking about Little House on the Prairie or something. I don't know what it was. And what she remembered on a day like this, instead of eating inside because they had 9 kids and the 2 adults, they would take their supper outside on the picnic table. And she said she used to love that in the summer. It was a nice big family meal, so she really enjoyed it. So, okay, next. And there's me, my brother, my dad and my sister, and we're getting my first communion at St. Peter's Church. We were very proud of that. And then the last picture there is me and my dad at the City of Winnipeg's Aboriginal Accord signing. I just want to share what it is. The city asked us to bring in the Métis flag as part of the I forget what it's called. We're grand entry, part of the grand entry. And we went, and I asked my dad. My dad said, "Oh, I don't know if I want to go. I got bad knees. I'm getting old." So I phoned him the day before, and he said, "Yeah, okay, I'll come." So we came. We sat there. We're having coffee, enjoying our time. And then we carried the flag in, and we were very proud about that. And then we sat there at the front, and they did their speeches. And when it was done at the end of the day, I asked my dad, "So what do you think, Dad?" And he says, "Well, you know what? I wasn't going to come. I'm glad I came, because instead of having us come there, introduce us, and move us out to the back of everybody else, they kept us up in front. We actually got to speak at this function, where normally we're sitting at the back." So then I got, yeah, he's right. So things are changing for us slowly, but it's there. So I'm still learning stuff from this guy.
He's right about one thing. I didn't want to be involved with any of it. So he taught me that, and I said, "Well, okay, I'll go see." And then all of a sudden I listened and I enjoyed it. I like today, I'm enjoying this. And maybe one time about, no way you get me involved with that.
He's got a lot of trust issues with non-Indigenous people. And it's just the way he is. That's through his life. Because going to school, he wasn't treated very well. So this picture I'm very proud of. This is my dad's 60th birthday. We actually had a surprise birthday party for him. And it was quite nice. And these are all his family members here, his brothers and sisters, kids and grandkids. We all got to enjoy that for his 60th birthday, which is normal for us to have parties like that. Okay? Next.
It was pretty nice. A lot of some of these people I didn't know.
Well, they're family members.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So Rooster Town was bordered on, can anyone tell me what streets at all? What do you think? The first one would be, go ahead. Grant, yeah, go ahead, push the button. There you go. Grant, now, then Cambridge. And so there's the Sais house there at 1501 Hector. You can just see it there. Yeah, Hector. There's where the home is. Okay, next. Wilton, yeah, Wilton, and then finally Taylor. But back when the aerial view of this one was taken, you can see Taylor wasn't there. It was the railway that was the actual border for it. Okay, this is where my dad recalled where Rooster Town was. This is part of Rooster Town. And you can see Grant Park School there being built. Okay? Yeah. So here's the Rooster Town homes. This is actually in Evelyn Peters' book, Rooster Town, listed. So if you want to see it, you can't see all the families that are there, but if you get the book, you'll be able to find it there. Okay? So yeah, so this is where it is, 1501 Hector there. So to give you an idea where Francis and Marie Sais, that was my dad's grandparents. My papa, his dad, inherited the house. So if you know where the Pan Am Clinic is, on the north side of Pan Am, and on the east side, there's a shed there. That's where 1501 Hector was. And I only learned this about during COVID, because we went out there, and I finally asked him, "So Dad, where was your house? You'd always say 1501 Hector, and there's no Hector over there." And he finally pointed out where it was. So it was nice to see. It makes more sense to me now. So, okay, so in 1906, there were 34 homes, okay, and from my understanding, what it was a Métis community that was situated in there. They came closer to the city because they wanted to work. Our family is actually from St. Norbert. That's where they started out.
Yeah.
And they came into the city because they wanted to work. So it was closer for them. So, and then in 1911, there were 39 homes. 1916, 34 homes. 1921, 30 homes. So pretty consistent. 31 increased to 43. 36 to 46. And at the height of 1946 was 59 homes. So what happened in 1946? Why there was such a big increase? Everyone knows the war. Yeah, the war. So they had to find homes for them. So in 1946, the 59 homes, just to let you know, the kettle is that big because during 1946 and 59 homes, that's how much water the community needed for one day to survive. Okay, so that's how much water the community used. And then finally in 1956, there were 37 homes. Okay.
Well, there's another thing too that I didn't like when I was going to school. That was we were called welfare bums. You know, we were supposed to live. My dad worked, well, heck, for many years for the city of Winnipeg. My mother went house cleaning the houses around River Heights for other people. And I worked all my life, my sons and that. But we were so-called welfare bums. You know, we're living on welfare. You know? We earned our own money.
So the reason he says it, he'll just blurt out once in a while what he wants to say. Well, what it is back when they were deciding they wanted the homes to be moved to the city of Winnipeg, they wanted to get rid of them all, is they got the papers to write stories about them. And that's what my dad really hated, was the stories that the papers said about the people of Rooster Town. Even after they moved them, they weren't very pleasant stories. And that was one of them, was that nobody was working. They're all on welfare, they're dirty, to stay away from them, which is totally untrue at all. That's one thing, going back and forth to the dairy, he kept saying that. He just didn't like these stories. And he wanted everyone to know the truth instead of what was printed there.
And all the time, I remember having some friends at school, and their parents come along and told the teachers and the principal and that, keep my kids away from them, dirty people, you know. We were living normal, just like anybody else. But, you know, to live through it, you know.
You're good now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen to him and I know. Yeah.
So, my friend from the city of Winnipeg, Murray Peterson, he found this article in the Tribune and he forwarded it to me. And he wanted to show me what the actual thinking was about what was happening back then. So this is my dad's family was still there, but then they came up with this. So you can see the two row houses that are sticking out there. They belong to Joseph Arcand, which is my grandmother's father, his mother's father, Joseph Arcand. And the little boy is Jerry Conway. And those two families lived there, and I think they had 11 kids, the Conways. Yeah. Family of 12. Yeah. And because they stuck out and they didn't fit in with all the row of the wartime houses that were being built, they're going to be bulldozed. They're forced them out of their home. Okay? So when they're doing this article, they mentioned that the bulldozers are on the street running, waiting to take these down so that they could get rid of them. And my great-grandpa, it was just him and my grandma, and he was so worried because he didn't know where he was going to go after this. He had no idea where he was going to live. So they eventually made them leave, and it was nice to see the picture. And the other one, Jerry Conway, it's kind of interesting because our payroll clerk, her last name's Conway at Winnipeg Transit, and that's actually, she's related to them. She didn't know that her family was from Rooster Town, so she's very interested. So it's kind of funny that I met with her. So you can see here, teeming families were to leave. Joseph Arcand had lived in, and they call them shacks. They didn't call them homes. I hate when they use the word shacks.
Shacks, no homes.
For 21 years, and he liked the outdoors. Okay? So hence by bylaws, they wanted to go. So I'm just trying to see where I can read what it says here. Here we go. Okay, let me get a little closer. At 1108 Dudley, there are Joe Conway and his wife, Dorrit. There are 8 children, Joe's father and mother, and an uncomputed pack of mongrel pups. Right. Joe is a city street cleaner. Next door are Mr. and Mrs. Joe Arcand. Mr. Arcand has been unable to work for 2 years because of his health, and his doctor has ordered another 6 months rest. Last fall, 2 families got their order to move out within 60 days. But the frontier is closed and there's nowhere further out they can squat again. So again, they call them squatters. My dad really didn't like that name because they weren't squatters, okay? So the city has to find them a place to live. I could go to a rooming house, said Mr. Arcand, but it's too hot in the summer. You lean against the door jamb of his shack and squinted into the sun. Both families are holding out for a house, so Conway's 8 children, only 4 of them who are old enough to go to school, would not know what to do with them. Those in a rooming house, not to mention the pups. But it can't last forever. Suburbia is marching out over the prairies. The neat gray bungalows stretch as far as you can see with the length of Dudley. A bulldozer rooting and snorting on the boulevard is waiting impatiently to plant 2 more, 1106 and 1108 Dudley. The Conway and the Arcans are expected to leave sometime this summer. Okay? So, again, they were being forced out of not their house, not their land, their home. Okay? So, I wish more of the Roostertown families would come forward, share their stories. I think some are. At a walk at the end of the month, there's a family that's going to talk about their family on the Rooster Tower. But I found these. So, there's the Laramie family. We're part of the Rooster Town. Elise Sais and Ruth Sais, that's my Auntie Ruth. No, my Auntie Mary, see I got it wrong. My Auntie Mary, the oldest. They're there. So, has anybody here been to the library? And you know the metal silhouette out there with the woman and the child? That's them there. That's where they got the picture from. So, very proud that that's up there. They're there forever. And then at the other end, this is a picture I found, someone gave to me. I was kind of surprised to see because there are not too many pictures. And that's Francois and Marie and their son Charles, which is my dad's dad, my grandpa. My papa, we say papa. Okay. And there's, my dad loves that picture there, Frank Sais at age 10 with his Gilligan hat. So, he loves it. I'll talk about the Stock family in a bit. And then there's Frank and Elaine Sais at the wedding. So that's when my dad got married, moved to the North End, and found my mom. I should have fell in love with my mom, had me, and moved in together, got married and lived there. And raised a family. Now the last one is the Stock family. It's interesting. So there's two families like the Hullcheckers and the Stock. They were not Métis, but they lived in the community. And I bring up the Stock family because it's interesting because I went to Ottawa, and I always say every Canadian should go to Ottawa, see the Parliament building. It should be included as a Canadian citizen. It's amazing. If you haven't gone there, you need to go. So me and my wife were there. We visited the History Museum, and I was walking through, and it was nice seeing they had stuff about Indigenous history in there. And as I walked by, I heard my wife goes, "Hey, they got Rooster down over here." I said, "What?" I walked right by it, and I didn't even see it. Yeah. So sure enough, I walked by it, and I go there, and there's a picture of the Stock family. So what it was a display showing Indigenous people being moved off their traditional lands. So one of it was Roostertown. So I saw a Stock family. Well, they're not Métis, because it said Métis family, Stock family, eh? So I had to call someone over. "Come on over here." I said, "Just let you know that's not a Métis family." "How do you know that?" "Well, my dad is from Roostertown."
They asked me, I said, "How do you know that?" I said, "Well, I was brought up there, and I know who they are. Stocks, they're not Métis. I don't know what kind of language they are, but one thing they're not, it's not the Métis. Why do you have them to stop them part of the Métis family?" I said, "They're not Métis."
So, but just to clarify,
It doesn't matter. I said, "You can call them what you like, but I'm just letting you know." I said, "That's all."
So what it was is, when I went there and I saw that Roostertown, I said, "Well, I got to take my dad now." It's at the capital of Canada. It's over there at the History Museum. So I took them there, and they actually were very kind. They got a wheelchair, took us a tour on the place. We didn't have to pay to get in there. We were their guests. And when they took them there, that's the first thing my dad said. "Just let you know, that's not Métis." So they didn't know. And so if anyone goes to Ottawa and they see this display, let me know if it's still Stocks are up there, because I'll give them a call. Okay? So
Last time I looked, they weren't up there.
yeah. So moving the family, so there were new articles were used to discredit the family, which my dad shared with me. He said, well, what they wrote about us was not nice. There's a family they had pictures of that aren't very nice. And I have to say that family, unfortunately, wants nothing to do with any kind of reconciliation of Roostertown. Okay? Because of the way they were treated. It wasn't right. So I was the Winnipeg Tribune, October 9, 1952. City acts to evict Roostertown folk. Okay, and this is 1952. They started the process of wanting to get rid of the people of Roostertown. Okay? So on May 13, 1959, the city offered $75 if residents left voluntarily. Okay? So they sent it all to the people that lived there. My dad's family didn't receive this letter. Okay? And it said if you left on time, we would give you $75. And I believe if you didn't at a certain time, then you would get $50. Okay?
Well, another thing too, with Winnipeg Tribune wasn't bad towards the Métis Philippines and Roostertown. But the Winnipeg Free Press, what they didn't write, you know. I'll tell you, if you ever read that, last I looked in the library, there was stuff about, and in Winnipeg Free Press, well, Roostertown. I don't know. I don't know where they got that from, but, you know, that's not right. But a Tribune, they were honest about it.
You just got 2 articles in Tribune that don't look too good.
They were terrible.
So the Winnipeg Tribune released this April 17, 1959, letting the city know, the rest of the city know, that cash was offered to the squatters. Again, my grandfather was not a squatter. My grandparents. Yes, and the majority weren't squatters. What they did is they rented housing from someone who owned it. Okay? So they weren't squatters. I like using that word, squatters.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the expropriation of the Sais. So pay attention to the dates. It's very quick. Okay, what they did to my grandparents. So on October 29, 1958, the city document asking the city to negotiate with Charles Sais for his home and his land at 1501 hectare. City determined, the city, there was no negotiation. The city determined, hey, we're going to give you $12.50 for this. It's a fair price for your home and your land.
Get out, that's it.
Yeah. So, yeah.
No questions asked. Get out, that's it.
So remember that was October 9th, I believe. No, October 29th, yeah. So on October 29th, the city document asking the city to negotiate with Charles Sais for his home and land at 1501 hectare. City determined $12.50 was a fair price. So they're actually, we were able to find these documents, okay, showing this timeline.
Yeah, but
So,
another thing there I forgot to tell, that my dad, he wanted to fight them.
hey, we're not there yet, Dad. Let's wait. Let's wait, Dad. Let's wait. You're killing my thunder here. Come on. Okay, so November 3rd, 1958, only 4 days later, the city documents gave the okay to start negotiating with Mr. Sais for the acquisition of his home and his land. Now, 4 days later, city documents claim Mr. Sais did not respond to their letter acquiring his home and land, and we could not find this letter in the city archives at all. Okay? So, I don't understand. Back then, how long did it take for a letter to get to somebody? Okay? That's 4 days saying that you refuse to negotiate. Okay? So, we can never find that. So, now on December 9, 1958, the Finance Committee approves move forward and expropriate Mr. Sais' home and land because he did not respond to the city's correspondence. Less than a month later. In the meantime, I've asked my dad this many times, I've asked my uncle and my aunts, no one came to the house. No one came to talk to my grandpa at all, my papa. So these are the documents here. Okay, you can see the dates. December 7th, expropriated, and then the other one shows the amount that they want to pay for the house. Okay. Now, December 18th, 1958, okay, the other one was December 11th, so 7 days later, the city law department drafts a letter to acquire Mr. Sais' home and land because he refuses to discuss the matter with the city. The city wants the land for a public park, and it actually went to the school board. The school board owns the lot where my grandparents lived. Now, December 29th, 1959, we put question mark because all the other documents showed 58. For whatever reason, this one says 59 now. Okay? So all the other ones were written as 58. This one was typed in 1959. And it might make sense once I show you the different documents we have here, why they changed the date. Okay? So regardless, that all October 7th? And October October 29th, and by December they had already expropriated the land and the house, the home. Okay, so don't go back one more. So the city expropriated 1501 Hector Avenue, Charles Sais home. Okay, yeah. So that actually has the date there, and you can see it typed in 1959. Okay. So I don't know what happened there.
I think I know, Darrell.
What?
It was almost the turn of the year, and somebody was working overtime on.
Oh, could have been, yeah. Yeah. But I'll explain what happened now. So now all this was happening in the background. My grandparents knew nothing about what was going on here. Didn't have a clue. So Elise, my grandmother, and my dad Frank went to pay the taxes on the property, but found out. So they went to pay for it, and they said, "Oh wait, we found out no longer you own it." Actually, it's the Winnipeg School Division now owned it, and they actually told them you have to leave by September 1960. So they went to pay it in June. End of June, they had to be gone within a couple of months. They had to leave. There's no negotiation there. So when they went home, my grandmother was really upset. My papa was in the hospital at the time, right?
Yeah.
In the hospital, so they had to go see him. They talked to his cousin, which he called his Uncle Ed. He was a firefighter. Got some advice from him, and they're trying to fight it. They wanted to go see Stephen Juba. They wanted nothing of it. They said, "You have to be gone."
Jail.
Yes.
Get out or go to jail.
Yeah. So very quickly, so the other story I always keep forgetting is, so now a lawyer heard about this. I don't know how they hear about this stuff. So he went over there and he went to go talk to my papa. He said, "Well, I want to help you out here. Let's just try to fight this." Yeah. So my grandfather said, "You better get off my land." He said, "No, come on, I want to help you. He said, "No, you better get off or I'm going to get my shotgun."
Yeah, he showed me shotgun.
Yes. So he went in the house, got a shotgun, and the guy went running, my dad said.
He was in his car, gone.
Yeah,
and then the police come over.
Yeah, so they'd given up. So the reason I look at the 1959 is, you can see the tax roll at 1501 Hector. It shows it's owned by Charles Sais. I don't know why they included the women back then. It didn't seem fair, but it should have been my grandmother too, but that's a whole other story. So then in 1959, when they went to pay for it, you can see that it's owned by the Winnipeg Parks Board at that time. Meanwhile, my parents did pay their taxes, and my grandparents paid it in 1959, when supposedly they didn't even own it then. So I don't know what that's. I think that's why they went December 1959 saying, "Okay, yeah, he paid his taxes." But if you look at the tax roll, no, the city did own it at that time. It was very interesting, the timeline. Awesome. Questions at the end?
Somewhere along the line, did they get the $1,250?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Just curious.
So I'll get back to this. So now what happened was, so they tried to fight it. No, they left. They got the $1,250. My papa wanted to go back to St. Norbert because that's where they're from. But my grandmother talked him into moving into the north end, close to his sister. And when they moved there, the real estate agent that they bought it off of failed to tell them there was $4,000 in arrear in taxes. So when the year came up, they ended up losing their home. So after that, they were renting home to home because that was it. They lost their money.
Well, the only reason my mother didn't want to go live in St. Norbert because it was too far for bingo. So they lost that, and it was. So, and I should mention that my grandma and grandpa were about 30 years apart in age. Yeah.
Okay? So now they're moving, and at the time my grandfather had gotten dementia. They didn't call it dementia back then, and senile, and my dad would tell all the stories about that. And so they're moving from place to place in the north end. And as a young kid, I'm wondering, how come they live here? Oh, now they're living here. Now they're living over here. And then when my grandfather passed away, now my poor grandmother had nothing, right? They didn't have CPP at that time. She wasn't old enough to get old age yet. So again, living from place to place. And thinking back now, looking at as a young kid, that was hard to see my grandmother struggling like that, and we couldn't help her. We were in no position to help her. So I always say, they didn't just take their land and their house, they took my grandmother's home away from her. And then through the journey with my Uncle Philip, I've learned that this affected her more than I thought. Because my dad, he was 18. I think he lived with them for a couple of years. My grandpa was still alive. My Uncle Philip was there when it was just my grandmother. My papa was pretty old then. And he said my grandma was never happy after that. She never had a home after that. So they didn't take their land and their house, they actually took their home away from them. Because my grandmother was born and raised in Roostertown with the Arcans, and then she lived there and raised a family. And they took that away from her. And I don't think they realized what they did. Okay, so very disheartening. Now before I get to this again, I want to share a story because I want to explain it was a very tight community, Métis community. Okay, everybody looked after everybody. My dad would go get water, he would deliver water to the people that couldn't get water. He charged 10 cents a barrel, but it wasn't very much money. So they did stuff like that. Now, just to tell you how tight-knit the community was, and most of the people were like this, is my favorite story about my grandma and my grandpa, my papa, is there was one summer night, a warm night like this, the window was open at night because it was cool, it was kind of hot, and they didn't have screens back then. So she's sleeping, she's laughing already. So she's sleeping, and all of a sudden she felt someone tugging on her hair. She woke up and there's a man standing in the window. Scared the crap out of her. So she called for my papa. So he says my grandpa got up, boy, got his fist up, and he's ready to go at him. So the guy, whoa, I'm thirsty. Do you have any water? I'm really thirsty. So we're thinking that it probably came from the railway there. Yeah. People going across Canada, right? That's how they got around back then. So he came in, so my grandpa calmed down after a bit. Wait, hold it, you're killing my story here. So he got up, he calmed down, and so he told him, he said, I just want some water, please. And my papa says, just give me a second. So they got dressed, opened the door, and let the person in their house. And the first thing they did, he got my grandmother to make him a sandwich. I guess it was a bologna sandwich. Yeah. See, bologna sandwich. Yeah. Some tea in that, fed the person. This is a complete stranger that just came into their house like that.
He was so happy.
Yeah. So they sat there. I guess they talked for a bit, and I found out this on the way home. My dad said he was scared big time. He was scared of this man, and then my grandfather did this, and so then as you appreciate, and when he went to leave, you got my grandmother to make another sandwich for this individual, gave him something to leave with that, and the way he went. And don't forget, they had 9 kids to feed. Okay, and there's only the one parent working. And I have to say, that's the kind of community it was. It's just my papa did this. I'm sure other communities were probably all like that.
The whole community was just
yes.
They look after one another, and any strangers that help them out of debt.
You know, and this is something the city destroyed. Just like that, because families went all over that. Yeah. We kept in touch with some families, but the families, not so much.
I'm still like that.
Yeah. So, now remembering Roostertown, so just before COVID, the city was going to be announced they're going to be building a library at Granted Cambridge there. So a consulting firm got in touch with, I'd say, most of the families in Roostertown that they could, and they held a meeting at Pan Am Pool. So they went to Pan Am Pool, and there was quite a few people. I think there was maybe 60. What do you think, Jossie? 60 people there? She doesn't want to answer. My cousin's back there. So I'd say there's about 60. And so the city asked the consulting firm to ask us, what would we like to see in the library to commemorate the people that lived in this area, the Roostertown residents. So one of the first things was we want to name the library, Roostertown Library, which made sense. Another one I put forward is I wanted to see a water pump commemorative, but where it was at Granted Cambridge, and listing this was vital to this community, this water pump, and this was the community was Roostertown. Okay, so they said okay. Now in the meantime, council had met and they decided to name it the Bill and Helen Norrie Library. And I have to tell you, my Uncle Philip wasn't very happy about it. What's the sense of them asking what we'd like to see when they don't even pay attention? They don't even do what we asked them to do. why did they do this? So I had to calm them down because they had another meeting at Grant Park High School. And I have to say that it was probably when about half the people only showed up this time. And they, some were upset, but we kept plugging away. We told them what we would like. They apologized about the name. They said we had nothing to do with it, and I totally believe them. They didn't have anything to do with the city and council. So I think it shouldn't have been just the consulting firm. It should have also been someone representing the city should have been there with them too, because there wasn't. So we held that meeting. Then they had another meeting a few months later. And at Fort Rouge Leisure Center, and unfortunately it was just the Sais family was there. That was it. I had my cousin Jossie was there, Lorraine was there, a few of my aunts and my uncles, and some cousins and my daughters. That was it. It was just the Sais family there. And it was very disheartening to see, because this is very important. You should be telling them your story, your family story. So we had that meeting, and then they had a final meeting. In the meantime, I had met Murray Peterson from the city's archives, and he wanted to discuss what we would like to see at the library. And him and, her last name's McLeod, she was really good too, met with them, and they asked him what we would like to see. And his idea was he wanted to have panels in the library, similar to the residential school panels that go around to the different libraries. And we said, yeah, let's have a look at that. So he gave us some ideas. He really wanted to talk to my dad and my Uncle Philip their stories of what happened to them there. They wanted them to share these stories. And again, I wish there would have been more people other than our family there sharing their stories. It was important. But they shared them, they listened, and then we had another meeting. The final meeting with the consulting firm was at Charleswood Library. And at that one, there was just me, my dad, my Uncle Philip. It took a lot to bring him there. I think I had to put him in handcuffs and drag him. And then my daughter, Kylie, came. And we met with them, and they showed us what some of the panels they were going to do. They showed us what the front of the library is going to look like with the picture there. And we were quite pleasantly surprised. I really, really loved what they were going to do. My Uncle Philip looked at the first drawing of what was going to go on the front and said, whoa, just a minute there. You see that house there? We didn't have houses like that in Roostertown. It was a pretty fancy house. It looked pretty fancy. And I said, okay, we'll change it. Okay? So again, they were listening to him finally. He liked it. And so they came with the final one, and that's when we saw my dad's water wagon there. And then next to him is my grandmother and my Auntie Mary. Very proud of that. So they showed us that. So I don't know if anyone's been to the library at all. So yeah, go see the panels. They're very interesting. I like the family tree they have up there. Okay, for that, and actually showing some of the stories that my dad talked about there, my Uncle Philip. Okay, so the last meeting we went, and on the way out, we felt good. We're very positive about it. Can't wait to see it. And so my dad goes to me, you know what I would like to see, Darrell? I go, what? I'd like to see us have a Roostertown reunion, barbecue, a picnic, something. I said, well, that's a lot of work. I don't know, Dad. I said, I don't think we can do it. So we went home, and I thought about it. You know what? I got to try for my dad at least. Because his dream was to have all the Roostertown people in a circle sharing their stories from their youth. Okay, they wanted to share that with everybody. So I thought of a couple of days, and I go, you know what? I got to give it a try. So I got in touch with the City of Winnipeg's Indigenous Relations Division, wondering where we could get funding for this, what we needed for permits, and the stuff that we needed to do. And this was prior to COVID. So we actually met, and I'm going to be truthful, I did work with the manager there at the city, and for whatever reason, I can't say I didn't like her, she didn't like me. And so we met, and the simple thing is asking, where can we get the funding for this? You work for the city, you know where you can get it. I don't. I didn't know where to get it. And then I said, well, how about the permits? Can you point us in the right direction? You work for the city, you know where to get the permits. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not here as a city worker, I'm here as a private citizen. So finally getting those answers, I said, you know what? You guys can leave, we're going to have to figure out what our next steps are then. So we sat there, and then someone sat next to me right away and said, what was her problem? Why doesn't she like you? I said, well, good, you saw it too. So we started discussing and wondering what to do, and I was thinking, what's our next step? We need funding. So I talked to my friend Karen Bowden, and she immediately said, contact Andrew Carey. He's the Winnipeg Region's Vice President of the MMF. And before I was even finished the phone call, he said, we're going to get this going, we're going to make this work. So we met, and I have to say we did work on it. I learned a lot from it. I learned that we need insurance for any kind of celebration. We need insurance for that, we need permissions for this, permits for that, and he worked very hard with it. The Winnipeg School Division actually gave us use of their facility, the soccer field there, whatever we needed, wouldn't charge us, and they actually looked after the insurance for us. They were very helpful. And then the MMF came up with some funding for food and entertainment, and we're all set to go, and we're all raring, and I was nervous what the turnout, and guess what happened? COVID. I think we were up to 2 weeks prior to that we were going to hold it, and we finally said, no, we can't risk the chance. So we postponed it, and 2 years later, is it up there? Yes. So there was the Rooster Town Union. We held it on October 29, 2021. In the meantime, the mayor had contacted us and asked us what we were looking for. You know, what do you need help with in that? And one of the things we talked about, and we said, I'm looking for an apology from the city for these residents, saying they're sorry. They should never let this happen. And he says, well, you know what? I'm an outgoing mayor. I'll do my best. I got nothing to lose. So he ended up attending. He did apologize, but he apologized on behalf of himself for the racism that the residents faced, not the city. So we're still waiting for that apology from the city. My dad will always say, I don't need no apology. I don't need no apology. But I can tell you, my Auntie Mildred needs it. She's a very angry young lady, because she was very young when she moved from Rooster Town. And they stole my land, she said. They stole my home. And she's 70-something years old, and she's very bitter still, and she uses a lot of bad language when she talks about it. A lot of those F-bombs are flying. So they need the apology. I don't know why they don't want to apologize. It would be nice that they did. I think it would show some closure for most of them, especially the ones that don't want nothing to do with Rooster Town. You know, every person should know where they come from. And unfortunately, some of my cousins don't know where they come from, because they're not sharing the story with their kids. And it shouldn't be that way. My dad was totally the opposite. He was very proud that he came from Rooster Town. So we had our celebration, the MMF came, we had a wonderful time, and at the end, near the end, after we danced, we started cleaning up. What do you think all the elders were doing? They're in their circle, sharing their stories. And I had to finally say, Dad, we gotta go home, let's go. And then my dad, on the way home, he goes, you know what, we should have this every year. I said, no, it takes a lot of resources to do it. It'd be nice to have every 5 years or whatever, but it is a lot of work. Yeah. Especially when you don't have the funding for it. So, you had a question? Quick question? No? Okay. So, we had their reunion, everything was great. Okay? And then, I got a call from Carol Frechette. She works for the Indigenous Relations Division. In the meantime, they did have a new manager there. And I know the manager is a very nice person, Cecil. And they said, Darrell, have you thought about seeing if you could get the Pan Am Pool Park renamed to Rooster Town Park? Because of the Winnipeg's, what's it called again? I always forget. The Winnipeg renaming the landmarks, part of reconciliation. I said, yeah, that'd be nice. So, well, how about do I go about it? And she actually helped me out, filled out all the forms, sent it in. It takes a while. It didn't happen overnight. And it came back, yes, City Council has approved it, and they have no problem renaming it. The only thing they asked was, what should we call it? Rooster Town or Pecan Town? Because originally it was called Pecan Town because of the hazelnuts. My dad, just give me a second. Dad, why do they call it Rooster Town?
Why?
See? He doesn't know. He has no clue why they call it Rooster Town. There are some rumors. He wants to know why it's called Rooster Town.
That's another thing I didn't understand. Where did they get that name Rooster Town? Yeah. There's no roosters in that area. Well, how the hell did they get that name Rooster Town?
Yeah,
Where
so
did it come from?
So he knows it's at Pecan Town, not Rooster Town.
Yeah.
So when they asked for what should we call the park, and again, I wish there were more families would have been around that could have answered it. So I asked my Uncle Philip, I asked my dad, what do you guys think? What do you think it should be called, Pecan or Rooster Town? And they said, well, if we call it Pecan Town, I don't think most people will know what we're talking about.
Right.
But if we say Rooster Town, they will know what we're talking about. And so we said Rooster Town. So then the Indigenous Relations Division said, well, we should actually have something there. Most of the renaming landmarks, they won't have a plaque there explaining why it's called that. And they actually came up for funding and they wanted to put that in there. So in there, if you ever go there, they will explain that it's actually called Pecan Town, and this is why, because a bunch of hazelnuts were in the area.
Yeah.
That's why they call it Pecan Town. And that's preferred from the residents. Okay? So, so we went there, so we held the celebration, so I rented a bus again. And I rented a bus. The first one I rented, the Manitoba made no. The city of Winnipeg paid for that one. The manager said, we have some funding available for this. We want to pay for the bus. Okay, great. I got to drive it. I loved it. Got to pick up people, made my own routing in that. It was a great time. And I actually picked up one of the hall checkers with descendants, so we enjoyed it. So this one I rented again, because they told me there was going to be a celebration. They invited all of us to come again. And so I rented a bus again, and this time the Manitoba Métis Federation stepped up and paid for the bus. And then I got my cousin Ash, who had just become a bus driver. He drove the bus for us. And I finally got to sit with my family and enjoy talking to them. And then I found out something new about my dad here, about the house. There was always rumors they bulldozed and they burned the houses. You guys hear about that? They would burn the house? So my dad said, no, they didn't burn the houses. He said, we tore it down ourselves. So in the bus, for whatever reason, he started sharing what actually happened. So they did tear it down, but his Uncle Ed said, you know what, I don't want anybody taking any of your stuff there. I don't want anybody taking nothing from there. So here's a can of gas, you go over there and you burn that. So my dad, here's 18 years old, runs over there, pours a bunch of gas on it, lights it on fire, and runs like crazy. So that's where the burning came from. He finally shared the story. I don't know why he was holding back all these years, but that's what he did. So it was kind of interesting. I'm learning stuff all the time from this guy, Steph. So we had the reunion, the thing. So at the end, I leaned over to my dad and I said, Dad, so what do you think? What do you think about all this now? And he says, you know what? I'm happy now. I'm happy. Thank you for this. And he really felt really good knowing that he felt this way, but he still deserves an apology from the city, I think. See, he doesn't think he needs it. I think he should. So here's my dad's famous water wagon. Okay, there's his 2 barrels.
Oh, yeah.
And he'd fill them up, and he'd actually go deliver water, and he had a horse. What were the horse's name?
Dolly.
And who?
Well, we had 2 horses, but only one horse pulled this wagon was Dolly.
And who was the other one, though?
The other horse we had 2 horses. One was Queenie and this one was Dolly.
See, you can remember this stuff, but you ask him what he did yesterday? I went home, and we had supper. I brought him over for supper and that, and I said, he says, where are we going now? I said, we're going back to Harrow Church. We are? I said, well, we were there. Don't you remember? You didn't remember being here this afternoon. So, but yeah, so are there any questions at all? I hope I didn't bore you too much. Yeah?
What's the teapot? Where is it?
Oh, okay. So the teapot is over at Beaumont Station on the Transitway. So when they were building the Transitway, they had funding available from the arts group to have something at each station. So you see the sugar beets. You know those red stakes that looks like winding red? That's the winding red river. That's what that represents.
Well, I asked the same question.
Oh.
Why did they have that teapot? Why did they have the teapot there?
Well, let me tell you.
They said, well,
Let me tell you the story.
Okay.
He was there, though. So what it was is the Winnipeg Arts Council had some money for this. And they wanted to put something to commemorate Rooster Town at Beaumont Station. So they phoned me and my dad up, asked us if we'd come there for the day and watch 3 presentations, and asked us what we think of it. So one was a cabin, one was something else, I don't know. It was that bad, I don't even remember that one. And then they had the kettle. So then they explained what the kettle was. We asked them, why is it so big? And that's the reason why it's so big, that's how much water it would need for that, for the community. But the way it's sitting right now, that's the picture they showed us. And I said, well, the only thing is, I want something put in there telling us what the kettle's all about. Because people are going to go there and say, what's this kettle for? What's going on?
Well, I asked
and they were supposed to have something, they never put it in. If you want to know about it, what it is, all you have to point people to Beaumont Station, and there's a little write-up in there. The map is completely wrong where Roostertown is, but there's a write-up about it there. I taught them about the map. Yeah. Yeah.
What year? Because I know that the households and families fluctuated through the years. What year was this specific to?
1946, he said. At the height, when there was 56 families in there, that's how much they needed, he said. I didn't challenge him on it, so I just believe what he said. Yeah.
What school did the Rooster Town kids?
Oh, that's a good question. Someone asked that before. So I don't know anything about the racism they encountered there. Those are on the panels. You can read those there. But the kids moved from school to school. My dad went to Mulvey.
No, just a minute. No,
Here.
little kids, we went to two schools. Like, first school I went to was a school on Fleet. What was it called? J.B. Mitchell? No, something like that. And then, you got me forget.
So you went to 4 different schools, though. You went to Rockwood, Mulvey.
Yeah.
And then where Gordon Bell is now, I forget what school that was. They used to have to go to that one. So the last one he went to was Mulvey, and he just got tired of getting the same books, so he just left. He left the school. That's when they had the truant officers then. They chased him down, and my grandmother said, okay, well, I'll talk to his dad. He's in the hospital. We'll decide what he wants to do. And my papa said, he doesn't want to go, he can't go, but he's got to find a job. So he ended up working with Royal Dairies as a milkman's helper. So, I think someone had one over here for.
I'm just wondering, when did the name pecan come into existence?
Oh, I don't know about pecan. It's just, I guess, since 1940, whatever, because he's born in 42. So I remember up to that time.
Well, it used to be bush beside the world. It used to be like we used to have pecan nuts there and plums and that in the bush.
No, he asked, when did it become pecan? I said, well, you're born in 42, so he remembers that as a young kid.
Yeah.
That it was called pecan.
Well, I don't know where a pecan town came from, but I know they did call it that. Well, they did call it.
Yeah.
And then it was Rooster Town.
Just wait, Dad. Someone's got a question.
I wanted to ask him, you may already have answered it, in which case I apologize, but
No.
how much water did the barrel hold that you used in your water delivery in 1946?
I think it was just a 45-gallon drum. If you go to there, it's just a regular drum. He had 2 of them. So my grandfather did it until he got too old to do it, then my dad took it over.
Yeah.
Charged a dime per barrel. So I don't know why we didn't stay in the water business. I think we'd be millionaires by now.
I used to get in a lot of trouble. My mother used to say, well, you got to get ready for it. Okay, we got to go get water. But I said, okay. And then, first thing you know, get up one morning, we had the water in the house.
Well, I always forget to mention, because it really doesn't really matter, but they had no plumbing and they had no electricity.
No.
But I can tell you, talking to my aunt and uncles and my dad, they were happy.
Yeah.
They had everything that they needed to be happy. Yeah. And they took that away from them. They took their home. And for myself, it bothers me quite a bit, is because Evelyn Pleaders, when she had her book launch, she said the city explained they did this to better the lives of the people of Roostertown. And they didn't better our lives, they made it worse. We were living in poverty for a whole generation. And living in poverty is not fun. Not fun at all. Knowing where your next meal is going to come, where you're going to live. Having your gas turned out in the middle of winter. It's not fun. So it really bothered me. I was almost crying when I had to say something about it. Because they didn't better our lives, they made it worse. But we picked ourselves up, and I have to say the next generation is doing quite well. Most of us have a house. The bank owns it, but most of us have a house. Okay, like Norm. So growing up, I thought everybody rented houses. I didn't know you could buy a house. I thought that was for the very rich. And I learned as I got older, no, it's doable. So what really bothers me is they took that away from our family, where I think that's where I could have lived. That's where I could have had a house. And they took that away from us. And that's why I think I need an apology. I need an apology. Let's see, I need an apology from the city, what they took away from us. this.
Yeah, in case I forget, what I give credit to is my parents. We had good parents. They looked after us, and they made sure that we were in the house when we were supposed to, and they made sure we went to school when we had to. They looked after us. But I can remember living in some area, like in that same area, like they didn't give a damn about their kids. Their kids were all over. At 12 o'clock at night, they were on the street. But us, we were in the house, or else we were in trouble.
Okay.
My good parents.
Anything else? Oh.
Did the families in Rooster Town have gardens?
Gardens?
Yeah.
Did you have gardens? Did you guys grow something? I know some did,
We
yeah.
had a garden. Yeah, my dad had looked after a garden. He had it small, it wasn't that big, but it was pretty fair size, like behind the shed. Then we had potatoes growing, and onions, and we looked after it.
That's it. Thanks again. I really appreciate you being invited. I appreciate listening. So we had a reporter ask me a question and what my goal in all this was, and it's kind of hard. I guess I would like you to share that the stories that the pre-press had there and the Tribune are not true at all.
Yeah.
These were happy families, and I know they wanted to move them, and I hate to say it, they wanted to move them because they're Indians. Figured they just get rid of them, and it's unfortunate they did it, but they're just normal families like anyone else. They're just, not as rich as other people, but they were happy. And the newspapers, that's one of the things my dad was very adamant about. That was all lies that they showed there.
Yeah.
And that's why this is part of why I want to do this. So again, thank you.
Yeah, another thing too.
Oh.
He's got one more thing to say here.
People ask me if I would do this again. Hey, I'd do it again. I mean, I was happy with it. I went through a lot of problems, but hard times. But hey, we lived through it.
The thing is, so again, I learned from him today. They asked, "What did you think? How did you feel when you moved? When you had to leave, Frank?" And I just realized he said he was scared. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't know where he was going to end up. He was very scared, and they took this from an 18-year-old kid.
I was scared of the north end. The north end, we heard a lot of bad things that's happening in the north end. And when we had to move out there, hey, I was scared to go out at night. But it got better. You got to meet people.
We are deeply grateful that you took so much time with us both this afternoon and this evening to share your story, and I'm sure we're all going to go away with
It's been fun,
more stories to share with other people.
Do it again.
It's great. So once again, there are brochures available, I think, unless they've all been picked up. Brochures about the garden, brochures about the mural, and of course the walking tour. All of those are available along with some videos, and the walking tour on the church website also has audio clips. So the story about Grandma's hair getting grabbed through the screen window, the open window in the night is one of the audio clips that's on there, for example. For those who are interested, I think Susan is going to be hanging out in the garden area if you want to talk to anybody about that. You're welcome to hang around here and eat up the bannock and drink the tea and whatnot. And Jackie, you obviously can take yourselves on a walk. Our whole goal was to make it a self-guided tour, but Jackie is going to be leading a group. So in, 5 minutes? Give people time for a bathroom break and a quick look around if they want. And Dorothy's there if you want to talk about star blankets. But in 5 minutes, Jackie will meet folks outside and lead one of the tours. Thank you all for coming.